Awkward silence, everyone.
Awkward silence.
Awkward silence. It looks like we are recording this time.
You sure?
Yeah.
Or are we?
Okay.
We are. We're just letting the world know that we still don't have a coffee pot, too.
Honestly, and I think we should just hold out until until season 2.
At this point, we should just be called Wawa Cafe. Guys who stop at Wawa before they record. So,
okay.
Welcome back to the show.
What's up, y'all?
How's it going? We don't do a very good job at cleaning off our studio desk.
Nah.
Scott eats whole peanuts.
What?
He doesn't even eat the shell and all. He just eats them.
Evidently,
Yeah.
he started shaking his nuts before he puts them in his mouth.
Yeah, because I ate one, it had no peanut in it. It was just saltiness. So it was disappointing.
He was all about that saltiness until there was no peanut in the middle.
Whatever.
Well, we're not boosting this episode.
Mind in the comments if anybody else eats the shell with the peanuts. I'm not just the only weird person.
You are the only weird person who does that.
I mean, I know people that eat, like, sunflower seed shells and all.
I don't do that. That's weird.
Alright, so write in the comments if you think Scott's just weird.
He can take it.
I can.
He can.
He likes taking it anyways.
Okay, keep it PG-17. Can't tell the ones.
That's R. You know that, right?
PG-16 and a half.
Well, anyways, we're going to continue the topic of the post-apocalyptic scenario that we were on before.
And where we left off was in the woods.
Surviving, staying away from people. Which is honestly, like, hands down, you have to. You have to avoid people.
Yeah.
People are going to be your biggest threat in a normal,
It would.
like, scenario.
But it's also a double-edged sword because you need, like, you can't do it by yourself. I mean, you could survive for a period of time, but if you want to, like, survive, you gotta make some kind of, like, not structural, like, but some kind of, like, community to be able to survive, because eventually you can't do it by yourself.
You need some basic knowledge of survival skills, too.
For the most part.
If you think about it, like, how many people out there honestly do not realize that, like, you should boil water before you drink it? Like, if you're in the wild, like, don't just drink out the fucking river.
Even a spring.
Yeah, even a spring. Well, and the springs are generally they're self-filtering.
Not nowadays.
Well, I mean,
Besides
they're still self-filtering for the most part, but
Yeah.
I mean, if you just drank straight from, like,
A creek.
a creek or a river or something like that, like, there's so much bacteria that you can dig, like this. There's this technique you can do where you can dig a hole next to it and the water will filter through, and it's kind of filters it, but you're still playing risky, like, with what bacteria you're gonna get, and you know, but that is an option. But so many people don't realize, like, you know, in a survival scenario, you can't just go out and do that. Like, you even, like, trying to collect rainwater, depending on what you collect it on, bacteria can build up. Like, you don't just want to use leaves. You don't know what's, like, you know, you went to the bathroom on those leaves. You know what poisons. Like, you know, just watch Naked and Afraid, man. How many people make serious mistakes within the first 7 days of a survival scenario? Like, most people can't make it 21 days. Nevertheless, you got to figure a realistic apocalyptic scenario, like, people are going to fucking die. Like, you know, trying to live in the wild is not easy. It's not something that's... It's just not something you can do without skill. Now, there are people who obviously are just natural born survivors who are going to do it. You know, who are going to be able to be like, all right, you know, have picked up enough common sense over the times to realize, like, I should probably filter my water. Or, you know, like, fires, for example, you don't want to have, like, if your objective is to avoid other people, you know, you can't just have fires going 24/7 or a big like fire at that. Yeah. You want to keep light almost to a minimum.
Yep. And you got to think about different ways. Like, instead of, I mean, even trying to smoke your food is to do that. You got to worry about the smoke,
you got to worry about that too. So, but I mean, realistically speaking, if you're far enough back into the woods, you're probably fine. And if I was reading something at one point, and it was kind of like not necessarily post-apocalyptic, but it was like it was like trying to survive in a messed up world where there was like a really really bad government and like, these people were living in the woods and they were still smoking their food, but they were like waiting till like storms and stuff like that, and then they had like almost like a canopy above their smoker. And
to kind of decimate the smoke from the rain. That's smart.
Right, yeah, and it's genius. I don't know if it's actually applicable, like if it's something you can actually do, but it's a genius idea.
Yeah.
Like if we ever ended up in a post-apocalyptic world, that's probably something I would probably remember and incorporate. No, I mean, like I would love to actually like do a short little series with like, get a couple of our 4K cameras together and just go out in the woods and actually like record like, hey, let's try to like, do this. Let's see how you could survive. And then we'll actually have people that is like a secondary team and be like, try to find us. Like, like, I don't know, just to see if it's possible. We can add that to the list of 101 projects, what we got in the, works at it's months down the line,
They
but
won't find us.
Oh, probably not.
Yeah.
I mean,
We get ourselves lost, so they can't find us.
well, it really depends too. Like if you,
if we were to shoot them with a 22 long if they get too close.
If we were in Jennings, a forest we know really, really well, I don't think that people would find us.
I don't think they'll find us. Yeah, especially in Jennings,
Yeah. But if we had to be in like another one of these state forests or something like that,
we don't know shit about it.
That we don't know shit about, we'd probably be in trouble. But no, a forest that we're super familiar with like that, like no, and nobody's gonna find me if I don't want to be found out there.
Yeah. So big, so many different. Yeah.
So much stuff. I mean, it's realistically speaking, survival is complicated, and a lot of people lack the skills. It's like we were talking about in last week's episode. Is people don't even know how to can anymore. A lot of people don't know how to, smokehouse preserve your feet. What about hide, like tanning and stuff like that?
Yeah, I don't know how to do that.
Like it's surprisingly, the technique seems simple enough. Especially if you look at some of the primitive techniques. A lot of it's smoking it.
Oh, yeah.
They actually like boil the brain of the animals into like a mush, like jam, and then they like rub it back into the hide, and then they like wring it out, and then like smoke it again, and they repeat these processes over and over again till you get a hide. But, a lot of people don't even know how to do this shit. I mean, they're probably gonna mess up some pelts along the way, but like let's think about it in a post-apocalyptic scenario. Like you got to figure out how to do it because. I mean, sure, you could venture out of the woods to, like...
Get clothes or something.
To get clothes and stuff like that, but you're taking a risk. But, what if you don't find anything as to where, like, if you're already hunting to eat anyways, utilize every part of that animal.
Right.
Utilize every part of it because otherwise you're wasting. Like, even parts of, like, what the sinew, or I think is what it's called, that runs along the spine, like, that can be, dried out and used as a string. Like, cordage. Cordage is surprisingly, a lot of people don't realize cordage is going to be one of your biggest goddamn tools in a post-apocalyptic scenario.
Yeah.
You're going to need cord more than you would probably need anything else. Like, you don't have a knife? Okay, well, you know what? You can make a knife by banging two rocks together if you know what you're doing.
Yeah.
Even if you don't know what you're doing, you can figure it out. Eventually, you'll figure it out. But fire, like, say if you don't have a lighter, does anybody actually know how to use a bow drill to start a fire?
I know, like, I haven't done it, but I know, like, the concept of starting a fire.
I've seen the concept for it done. I've seen it done before.
It's seeing it and doing it's like almost completely different. Like, again, going back to that Naked and Afraid show, like, so many people are like, I've studied it and I've done it at home all the time. Yeah, okay, well, now we're dealing with a damp scenario. Maybe we're dealing with this kind of scenario. Maybe you're just dealing with shit wood. You've got prime pickings when you're in your home, but when you're in the wild, it's different. Flint and steel, something is always going to be reliable. And you should probably go that route. Like, it's just because it's easier. It's quicker to learn. I mean, obviously, if you can pack lighters, have some sort of like lamp oil or something.
Yeah, definitely lamp oil,
Yeah, but I mean, this is, of course, you never really know what you're actually able to grab in the moment when you're actually having to bug out. or why you're bugging out.
Okay, so let's get off the topic of trying to survive off the land. Let's talk about if some people don't have that option. Like they can't do that, so they're gonna have to try to
Urban survival.
Urban survival. Let's talk about that.
I feel like that's where it gets trickier.
Because like you might be good, but that's only for a limited. That's urban survival because you got to think about everybody else is probably do the same thing. So it's going to be a lot more difficult.
I personally feel urban survival relies a lot on stealth, because like obviously you don't want to be trying to survive in cities.
Yeah.
Like in that kind of scenario, because there's no telling what happens. Like again, most of
You
my
may be
knowledge
safe for a week until you will be come across if you're in a major city.
I mean, if you
Because
look,
everybody is doing the exact same thing you're doing. They're skirmishing every damn place they can think of. Eventually,
Right.
they're going to get to you. You know what I mean? So it might be best is to keep moving around, but at the same time,
I think towns, like small towns that border outside of big cities are like, if you live in a big city, like a town outside of a city is probably easier to go. But then again, this also depends on the scenario of which you're trying to survive in the apocalypse. Like if we're going from resources to like, viral, like, what if it's virus? Like what if it's a virus that wipes everything out? And then now you're talking a whole different category of survival. Like now you're talking like, okay, first off, we've all been doing the mask thing for the last year, but we're talking about a virus that has for the most part a pretty decent survival rate. A lot of people have already had it. It sucks. It's a shitty fucking virus to have, but a world wiping out virus would probably be a lot more lethal. You'd want to be more careful. You'd want to be more careful with your hands. You'd want to be more careful with how you wash your hands.
That's true.
Yeah.
You would want to screw that simplistic mask. Like you probably want to do that shit with respirators. Like look at that's I Am Legend right there, Omega Man or Last Man on Earth, I think. All the same story. But that's viral. The viral that, pretty much wiped out everyone.
Yeah.
And those that didn't wipe out, of course, it made zombies. But that's
Of course. I mean, yeah.
yeah.
Except for in one of those cases.
Right.
I Am Legend made vampires.
Ish. Yeah. I wouldn't call them zombies.
Okay, no.
They were
Whoa.
they were bloodthirsty, and they were weak to UV rays.
Yeah.
Okay, they were weak
produced
to light,
vampires.
yes. But they ate flesh. It wasn't like they drank blood. Like they
Yeah.
straight up ate your ass.
Yeah, it was
so
like a vampire and
it would be more
zombie.
like a ghoul than a vampire.
Okay, yeah.
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 But no, I mean you're right, because it's not your
Yeah,
it's
it
not
was
your
a ghoul,
traditional
too.
zombie type. It was like
Yeah,
more
it
ghoul.
wasn't.
Really, if
they
you think
were-
about it, it's like super rabies with like light
'Cause they were-
sensitivity. But
because they were more like a horde based. Like if I remember right, the only really intelligent ones were like the leaders of the pack. The other ones were
Yeah.
kind of, I mean they wasn't dumb, but they were more animalistic compared to like the
Right.
leaders of the pack.
Right.
They were intelligent.
so I mean, if in the case it's like viral like that, you got to be more careful. Like even if you come across another survivors, then in communities it gets more dangerous because one person gets exposed, then they're exposing everybody.
Yep.
So in that scenario of like urban survival,
What do you think
if it's a pandemic that wipes out the world, then urban survival is dangerous as shit.
So you think if you had to do urban survival, you think it'd be better to be like a nomad?
If it's urban survival alone, you survive alone. If you have
All
a
day.
family, obviously keep your family safe. But then again, it's like when you go out, you're not able to keep an eye and keep safety on your family.
I know.
You don't really necessarily
I think you need like a small group of people.
I think when you're talking urban survival, having people is risky. Having the more people, the riskier.
Yeah,
it
that's what I'm
gets.
saying. A small group. I mean, just having like.
The more people, the riskier it gets in urban survival. Because then no longer are you depending on the wild for your resources, you're scavenging your resources. And you are scavenging with a lot limited supply because assuming nobody else has already picked everything else dry. Which would probably be the case. Maybe not in the right away.
Right.
But, I mean, in time, your supplies and resources would go... they'd be gone. So...
No, I totally think, like, regardless of the scenario, like, so urban survival, solo. You have to be stealthy about it. You want to be able to go, get in, get out. And I believe, like he was talking about, being a nomad would be the best idea. Make sure you have enough for at least a 7-day trip. Wherever you stop off next, you scavenge for whatever you need.
The supply runs out.
Resupply and keep moving.
Okay, so I would think the ideal approach would be to find something that's kind of on the outskirts of the city, like more like, kind of like tucked away, like maybe down a dirt road, a little bit of woods, and then just this little hidden house, this hidden gem that, you would never think, or like down an industrial road and there's just this one little road that goes off to it. There's just this little tucked away house. Those are your go-tos in scenarios like that. Because, one, people aren't going to be really looking for a house down those areas. They're not even going to be expecting it. They're not even going to adventure too far down stuff like that.
Yeah, especially if they don't know if they don't. Yeah, people. Yeah, you're right about that. People.
But you have to cover your tracks.
Yeah, people. Yeah, people are not just going to go.
Like looking for housing in general in that scenario should be a no-go. You shouldn't be looking for housing. You should be looking for, like, something more like steel industrial. Something people aren't really going to look too far into. Because the simple fact, houses are going to get raided for whatever food is left over.
All the time.
Clothing,
that's
material.
True.
But if you find something that's kind of off-grid, not off-grid, but like tucked away like that, you can kind of like set up traps. Like, have you all seen the newest Halloween movie?
No.
With Jamie Lee Curtis again?
No.
Okay, so like essentially she just has a bunch of traps set up all around her house, around her property and everything like that. Do stuff like that. But if you have to go out on a supply run, have different routes to and from your place. Never take the same route twice. Because if there is people out there and they're trying to track you, make it hard to find out where you're at. Never come in and out the same ways.
That same aspect, I feel you should also have multiple, like, safe houses.
Absolutely. If you feel like you're being followed, have like places you can duck off in between. Yep. Like, and if you're actually
have them bugged out, like have them completely bugged.
Absolutely.
With traps and stuff like that.
Yeah.
That way it slows them down,
Underground. Fuck it.
Underground? Yeah.
I mean, the sewer idea is actually not terrible. I mean, you have, after a while.
It also depends like where, because, okay, so like we're in Florida. Underground survival is not ideal. No. Most places don't even have...
School 4.
Dude, that thing is falling apart as it is. We're not trying to bunker down in there.
You got a basement, half filled with dirt.
Yeah, well...
Sand, I think. Yeah, sand, ain't it?
Yeah, now all the internet knows we snuck into that place when we were younger.
No, I think everybody snuck
into They actually do tours of it now.
Do they really?
Yeah,
really?
They're trying to raise awareness for School 4.
Condemned?
Most of it, but they've been cleaning it up. The parts of it that are still structurally sound, they walk people through and they do awareness.
So they do this shit now, and we were like fucking go to jail if we got caught in there. That's awesome.
Yeah,
bullshit. Scared a lot of people.
Just incriminating the shit out of us on the web.
That's okay.
The things you do when you were younger and...
Younger? That was like last week, wasn't it? I'm joking.
Oh, no, it was not.
You with the wrong group of friends, man.
It's been at the very least 10 years for me. At the very least.
I haven't been, yeah.
And even then, I don't even think I went in when I went there 10 years ago. I think I contemplated it, but...
It's been 10...
I think last time I went there I was 21, so 12 years ago, maybe? I don't know.
So it's been 10 years since I even went out there and was like contemplating going inside. And so it's probably been about like 12 years since I've actually been inside.
Ideally, to switch back to the topic, I think urban survival is a lot trickier, a lot harder.
It's going to take a lot more resources.
A lot more
It
resources.
is definitely a lot. It is a lot harder.
And
But
unless-
some people don't have the option. Like, big city people who do that. It's, New York. I mean, they don't got no. You're gonna.
Well, here's another thing. We're also thinking of this in an angle of being like non-shitty people, like just trying to stick status ourselves and
Oh,
hide.
no, yeah.
There's going to be communities of people who band together in large masses, and
Right.
And
they're
they're gonna be
going
violent,
and they're going
most
to be
likely.
violent, territorial. They're going to steal you from you to survive. There's going to be a lot of people like
Yeah,
that because
there will be.
fear makes people do stupid stuff.
Right.
It's. I mean, it's stupid, but at the same time,
There's-
it's survival.
But there's also,
people
you
goes
know,
back to that the stronger survives, and then
Yeah.
But then there's going to be other groups that are going to be welcoming, inviting. They're going to be like, oh, you know the area.
until you find out they're
Well,
cannibals and they
no.
want to eat your face. Just saying, but it is. I mean, it's like it's a double-edged sword. Like
It is.
it's a double-edged sword.
And like,
You know what's weird? Is think about these communities out there. Like I don't necessarily want to use the term hippie communities because I don't think like the proper term. But there are these communities out there that like have come together and live off grid, and like they grow their own food. They're very sharing and caring. Everybody contributes, kind of stuff. Where do you think they'll fucking be during this scenario like this?
They'll be killed.
unfortunately feel like they would end up getting wiped out.
You think they would be raided?
Yeah.
I think
Okay,
they'll be
so
the first
what
ones to
about-
get raided.
What about these like communities that are like that are like preppers?
That would be that
well,
one. The
before-
prep-
I think you would be ballsy to go anywhere near that community
Right,
in a
but
scenario.
let's the
Preppers,
whole
they're
other
prepared.
aspect,
yeah,
though,
that's different.
the more sharing community that's not preppers, you got to think they're going to be a little more liberal about what they keep, and they're not going to have firearms.
What do you think the chances
The
of
best way to everybody's going to have their firearms until they're out of ammunition.
right?
So they're going to use that to get what they want from them, get out of there. They're going to be left with nothing. So they're going to end up, dying or joining another community like them.
Right.
Preppers though, I've seen some, doomsday preppers. I watched one that these motherfuckers built. This family built a fucking castle with drawbridge and everything.
Wow. Oh, I remember you telling me about that.
Yeah, they built.
I saw an episode where they literally built an pretty much the hive from freaking Resident Evil. They built an underground layered bunker.
Wow.
Yeah, it had 3 different layers, and it was like, here's your communal area. You're gonna congregate. Food will be made. You guys are gonna eat. We're all gonna eat here. The next layer
That's
down, was set up for a few different rooms, and then the very bottom was where they kept everything else, everything they needed stored, because it was the farthest down to the
farthest
bottom.
down,
So it was the coolest area. So everything didn't need to be
And
put
it's
in a
more
refrigerator.
protected that way. That's pretty cool.
The generators were down there, so they had everything that needed electricity. Everything was all the wires were being fed up and everything like that.
Yeah, but
It's just
the one thing I think about, the bad thing I think about bunkers is, that's a cool idea and all, but you are really exposed if you think about it being a bunker. You're safe, but you gotta have oxygen. They can fuck you up over that. I mean, you're not just gonna they can
yeah.
I mean, they can make it so you're actually trapped in a bunker, and then you're you know what I mean. It's bunkers are it's a cool idea. We have a bunker, we're safe, but that's also
No, I
a
feel you.
double-edged sword. You know what I mean?
No, you're kind of right. Well, first off, they do make filtration systems.
They do.
So if you hide your thing well enough, you could probably still have air filtering, fresh air. Because it's not that hard to build a bunker.
Oh, I know. You can use
look
the
at
Connex.
yeah, those shipping containers. Yeah, they're I see them online all the time for
Yeah.
$2,000,
Yeah.
$1,000,
$1,000 for a
free
year.
if you can ship it, you get it off their property.
Free, yeah, I know.
Yeah,
Me and Andrew was looking at some, thinking that we were talking about we're gonna bury some in the ground,
No, I mean, and if
Oh,
you've
I
got
want-
property,
that's
you
how I
totally
want mine
should.
done.
You should totally invest the money, bury it in the ground, and have an access. What's the harm? If you've got the money to spare and you've got the property to do it, just go ahead and do it. You may never need it. Okay, you may never need
That'd be
it. Worst
cool.
case scenario, you have a badass little bat cave underneath your backyard. You know,
And they have companies that builds out of connexes. Like they do have doomsday prepper like bunker things, but they also have companies that make houses
oh yeah,
out of connexes, and all you have to it'd be the same thing. You just build it on. You just be under. It'd be like the big ass hole, and then they just bury it.
absolutely. I mean, you just
I
weld them
think if I'm
together.
gonna do something like if I'm gonna put it completely underground, first off, I'm gonna make sure there's enough the air filtration. Second, there's gonna be multiple ways into it and out of it.
Yeah, but that can also fuck you too, because then you also got
You got
worry about
2 points you got to watch at that
Yeah,
point.
two,
over
yeah,
one.
you got more. I mean,
Right,
but I agree with your thing because if somebody's doing this, you have an escape route. I mean, also too. I mean that.
And like, here's the other thing: like,
it's
you're
a double-edged
not,
sword, man. It's like Doom if you
your
don't.
exits
Doom if
aren't your exits aren't gonna be like obvious though. That's just
I
it.
understand that, but it's
Yeah, you would definitely have them hidden. Like if the idea is that it's to be a bug out shelter, like you would have it hidden. Like honestly, like the way I would do it, just me is I would probably build something on top of it, something you would never really think to be like just a storage shed or something like that,
Yeah,
and then just
shack.
throw like lawnmower, some broken tools and shit in there, and then like kind of like hide it like under a false floor or some shit like that. Most people aren't gonna be looking for false floors. And
that's
so and then you can go down in that way, and then you can have like a well house.
You're gonna have just a random shed in this middle of nowhere. Oh, I wonder what this is for. Oh, this is.
Well,
Oh,
it wouldn't be in the middle of nowhere. It would be in
Yeah.
my backyard.
no, it'd be like, oh yeah, I'm about to, that's creepy. Have this random shed in the middle of like.
Dude, I would have a
nowhere.
random shed with doll heads like hung together on what fish hooks and shit like that.
I'd never
like
go
you
in
open
there.
it and be like, oh hell no.
Yep. No.
I'm out. I'm done.
Like a bunch of taxidermy, like like
Beavers just looking at you.
like little beavers and like squirrels like stacked up on the dozen staring at you, and like doll heads hanging from the other corner. Bet you they won't raid that
Beavers
shed.
and squirrels wouldn't scare me as much.
But they would be
Dolls
dressed in clothes and having tea parties.
still wouldn't bother me as much as the dolls.
The dolls would do it.
Yeah, I'd be like,
like,
I'm out. Yeah.
huh.
Yeah.
They'd
I
having
wonder
be
if I
having
can join
tea
their
parties.
having tea parties.
They'd be having tea parties and eating other squirrels and stuff like that. I
Should
don't
have
know.
a recording. That says,
Just have it look morbid as shit.
we should have a recording on loop. Says, come play with us. And like some like
have
children's.
have it rigged where you walk in there and a cuckoo clock just randomly, just like old school, like like 1920s cuckoo clock. It just starts popping out, and it's just like a I don't know, like a Lego man's head like on it or some shit like that.
What the fuck?
Like so,
Porcelain, a little porcelain doll.
no, porcelain doll head just pops out.
Cuckoo. Cuckoo
Like,
for Cocoa Puffs.
I'd be like,
You would think twice before
Oh,
ever
man.
scavenging
Don't
through
ever
that
wanna
building.
I ain't gonna lie, I probably would never leave the bunker because I'd be afraid to even go.
You'd be
into it.
afraid to
I'd be
go
like, I don't want to leave.
I don't want to do it. No, I built it, but it's scary.
It's scary.
It's scary up there.
It works too well.
And then
might as well throw in some spiders, man. A couple snakes.
Nah, spiders won't like really ward off a lot of people.
You realize arachnophobia is like a huge phobia?
I mean, if it's, I mean, that would
no,
get rid
you
of.
really want to fucking scare people off. You track down like a couple hundred palmetto bugs and let them loose in the shed. Like a lot of people are.
Yeah,
A
no,
lot of
ew.
them. Oh yeah, if I walk in the thing, there's a bunch like all over the floor. I wouldn't
Beetles
go in.
all over the floor,
Yeah,
and
I wouldn't
palmetto
go in.
bugs just crawling all over each
Yeah.
other.
Oh, wait,
Doll
what kind of
heads.
beetles?
I don't know. Beetles?
Any kind of. There's a bunch of them. You walk. If you
Oh.
open that
You
door and
see a
there's
swarm of cockroaches and like
Dude, if you
palmetto
open that-
bugs and beetles. You're like, and doll heads and taxidermy squirrels.
Dude,
and
if you open that-
tea parties and
think about it.
Fuck that.
Think about it. If you open that door and they just like bust out, and you're like, "Yep, I ain't." Yeah.
yeah, I'd be like,
You
nope.
probably won't. You're probably not going in there.
Look,
At
as
least
soon
for
as I
a
open
while.
the door and the cuckoo clock with the freaking porcelain head popping out of me, I'm done already. He's like, nah.
Clocked out, clocked out, ain't come back.
I'm done. Nope.
Done.
Nope.
Done.
There could be
Ain't
there could
come
be a
back.
shelf of canned goods over there, like
Okay,
like
good.
high quality Alpo dog food, and I'm like, You know what? I'll starve to death. It's good. It's good. We're good. We're good.
Yeah, that cockroach is looking kind of good.
I'm gonna tame I'm gonna tame a tiger.
You fucking tame a tiger. Oh my god.
Oh, now I'm just being silly.
Now you're just being silly. Yeah. All right, guys. We're gonna wrap it up on this one. Stay tuned for the next episode where we're going to continue our post-apocalyptic survival month.
Yeah.
And of course, watch out for that giveaway. And all you have to do is like, follow, share, comment. Let us know that you're listening.
Get your moms to watch and tell them.
Get your moms to watch. Yeah. Tell them we said hi.
Don't forget to hit that bell.
The bell. This ain't fucking YouTube.
We're not been on YouTube?
No, we haven't been on YouTube.
We haven't even gone on the adventure yet.
Really?
No.
I'm like, I do that.
Somebody's
You
late
knew
to
that.
the project.
That's super late.
He only watches it when we upload it into the group chat. He's like, oh, all right, I can watch it now.
Loser.
You haven't been on Facebook yet?
We've been on Facebook this whole time.
I meant YouTube. You
YouTube.
haven't been on YouTube yet?
No, we're not on YouTube yet. I'm going to upload the whole first season whenever we wrap that up on YouTube.
Well, for future, remember to hit that bell. I always wanted to say that. I watch a lot of YouTube. I always wanted to say that. What does Facebook have? Hit that
Follow.
follow, share button.
And the share button.
Hit it. Click it.
Give us that heart emoji. We like it.
Yes, we do.
We like it when we see the person holding the heart.
I mean,
Makes us
I'll
feel
take
special.
I'll take the laughy face.
You can give me the
all
angry
day.
face. I don't give a fuck. Just react to it. Till next time.